Hello there, and welcome back to another day with a new story from the Bedtime Bible Stories. My name is Mary, and today I'll be reading day number 37 with the title of Moses Grows Up. When the child was large enough to leave his mother, Pharaoh's daughter took him into her own home in the palace. She named him Moses, a word that means drawn out, because he was drawn out of the water. So Moses, the Hebrew boy, lived in the palace among the nobles of the land as the son of the princess. There he learned much more than he could have learned among his own people, for there were very wise teachers among the Egyptians. Moses gained all the knowledge the Egyptians had to give. There, in the court of the cruel king who had made slaves of the Israelites, God's people, an Israelites boy who would later set his people free grew up. Although Moses grew up among the Egyptians and gained their learning, he loved his own people. They were poor, hated slaves, but he loved them because they served the Lord God, while the Egyptians worshipped idols and animals. It was strange that wise people such as these should bow down and pray to an ox, or to a cat, or to a snake. When Moses became a man, he joined his own people, leaving the riches and care he might have enjoyed with the Egyptians. He felt a call from God to lift up the Israelites and set them free. But at that time, he found he could do nothing to help them. They would not let him lead them. And since the king of Egypt had become his enemy, Moses went away from Egypt into a country in Arabia called Medina. Pardon me, it's Midian. Midian. He was sitting by a well in that land, tired from his long journey, when he saw some young women came to draw water for their flocks of sheep, but some rough men came, drove the woman away, and took the water for their own flocks. Moses saw it and helped the woman drawing water for them. These young women were sisters, the daughters of a man named Jethro, who was a priest in the land of Midian. He asked Moses to live with him and help him care for his flocks. Moses stayed with Jethro and married one of his daughters. So, from being a prince in the king's palace in Egypt, Moses became a shepherd in the wilderness of Midian. It must have been a great change for Moses after he spent 40 years in the palace as a prince to go out into the wilderness of Midian and live as a shepherd. He left behind the crowded cities, the pyramids, the temples of Egypt, and the great Nile River. For 40 years, Moses wandered around Midian with his flocks, living alone, often sleeping on the ground and looking up by day to the great mountains. He wore the rough skin mantle of a shepherd, and in his hand was a long shepherd's staff. On his feet he wore sandals instead of shoes. But when he stood before an altar to worship God, he took off his sandals because the people of those lands take off their shoes as a sign of reverence in a sacred place. Moses was a great man, one of the greatest men that ever lived. But he did not think himself great or wise. He was content with the work he was doing, and he was not ambitious. But God had work for Moses to do. And all through those years in the wilderness, God was preparing him for that work. And that was the word of the Lord. Now we come to our discussion questions. Number 1, why did Moses love the Hebrews? Number 2, why did he go to Midian? Number 3, do you think Moses found it hard to become a shepherd? Number 4, why did God make Moses a shepherd? So have fun discussing those questions and thinking about them. That will tell you how much you understood from this little story. So have a good and pleasant night. May God bless you. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.